Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. It's commemorating the most recent book of Mission Matters that we launched. So, volume 11 of our best selling Mission Matters Business Leaders series. And we're welcoming back onto the show Scott Chaplan. I like to call him one of our founding fathers or founding authors of Mission Matters. Let me tell you, Scott was supporting us way back when, before we had a website, before we had a podcast, heck, before we had anything. I don't know how we talked him into it, but we're going to get into more of that in a bit. But first off, Scott, man, welcome back on the show.
Adam, it's a pleasure, man. Nice to see you as always.
All right, so we're going to start this episode before we dig in, like we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Scott, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's what we do. Scott, what mission matters to you?
I like to help people, Adam. I like to teach. As the executive chairman of Delray Urban, we invest in real estate, we advise around real estate, and we also have an advisory services firm for businesses. So teaching, writing, and putting together deals are the things that I like to do. And we do that a lot in the urban core, where we help a lot of people around the country.
It's awesome. Great having you back on, Scott. And first off, I gotta show this so the people that are watching the video at home or on YouTube can see this. The people that cannot, that are in audio and that are watching, maybe listening in their car. So I'm holding up a book right now, and this book has myself and Scott on it. This is the very first edition. I can't say of Mission Matters because it even predates Mission Matters. This is the first edition of Money Matters, which was the original name of the company. This goes back to 2018. It was our very first project, our first book project that we did a collaboration, and it became a best-selling anthology series. Think of it much like, Chicken Soup for the Soul, but for entrepreneurs and executives and experts, so a different niche. So Scott is now in the most recently released volume 11. And so I think about it, he's in the first one we did, and now he's in the most recent. And now, Scott, can you believe this, man? We published over 400 authors now. I can't believe it, going back to like when we first started, when we didn't have a website.
It's awesome. You've done a wonderful job, my friend. I'm proud of you. It's just awesome.
So yeah, well, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the authors that have really supported us along the way and given us the ability to, build a platform and to create a safe space that entrepreneurs and executives could come, tell their story, showcase their work, and know that, there'd be a lot of thought and intent put behind it. So it's fun. I feel like it's like our own fraternity now, or this group of authors that have all come together. It's been a lot from different walks of life, different areas. But Scott, for those that maybe aren't familiar with your previous work or haven't dug into the book yet, maybe give a little bit of your background and really just how you got started in business and in real estate. Let's start there.
Sure. I've been entrepreneurial since I was a kid. So from college, where I started my first business, to coming out of college and getting into the wholesale business for automobiles, paying for my law school with that, and then becoming a lawyer, becoming a business lawyer, and starting to syndicate real estate deals in the early 90s. So, and I've been doing that ever since. And over time, that's become a concentric to Los Angeles project, to now 10 cities, 7 states across the country, and growing. And that's become our business. We vertically integrated to add consulting and to add design. We have property management, and we're a fully diverse real estate boutique, really a real estate investment bank with advisory services. So it's grown a lot, and it's evolved a lot. And I think I've learned a lot more through the scrape your knees lessons of life than any of the books that I've read, although I read a lot of books and write a few.
Now, were you born in LA, Scott? Are you LA native?
Yeah, I am. I'm an indigenous creature to Los Angeles. I've been here all of my life.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I know you as an LA guy, but I never asked you that. Yeah, I thought so. Huh.
Yeah, I spend half my time now in Texas.
Hmm.
And we have a big presence there and a home there and a daughter there, which is my
Hmm.
most compelling reason for doing anything. And so I love it there, but I also love my roots. I love Los Angeles, my friends, and we have this is the headquarters to our business.
Hmm. Talk to me about those early days of real estate. Like how did you originally get into real estate and start doing deals? Like what drew you into that side of things?
I was in law school and I didn't like the idea of paying rent to somebody else. It just bothered me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to try to put together a deal where I would own a place. And the only way to, I didn't have, the fundamentals I was missing were credit, cash, right? Income. So
Yeah,
I,
you don't need any of those. No cash, no credit, no income. Perfect.
it was perfect. So I tied up a deal
Hmm.
and then I went to the bank and surprisingly, they agreed to give me a loan, but it wasn't
Wow.
enough. So I decided to ask the seller to carry back some of the financing.
Hmm.
And to my surprise, they did. And I learned an important lesson there, which is the closed mouth never gets fed. So
Ooh.
if you want it, ask for it and
Hmm.
insist upon it and work for it. So that they agreed to carry back the second.
Hmm.
Then the bank said you also have to show income. So I went to law school and I said, who wants to live with me in my place? And I got a
Hmm.
couple of people to sign leases, took it back to the bank and said, I have income. They made the loan. We closed the deal. And I held
Hmm.
that property for 15 years as a rental property and continued to buy. So from that point, it went into multifamily, different houses, flipping
Hmm.
houses, buying and holding apartment buildings,
Hmm.
and everything else.
Yeah. Before we get into more present day stuff, I want to stay in those early days a little bit longer now because there's some people that are just getting into the business now and they're thinking they're going to listen to this or watch this and be like, "Wow, Scott did it like but he can do it, I can't." What kind of advice would you give to that new group of entrepreneurs and or would be real estate professionals that are just getting their feet wet? Like what kind of things would you tell them?
The first thing I would tell them is to stop setting your own limitations. There
Hmm.
isn't anything you can't do. If you want to be in the real estate business, you want to put together deals, you want to represent buyers, whatever it is that you want to do in that or any business, as
Yeah.
long as you start with a plan, there's a product market fit, so there's a demand, and then you start setting out your strategies and your tactics. There really isn't anything you can't do. Money is fungible. There are a lot of people out there that
Mhm.
have capital that will invest in good projects. So it's
Hmm.
about finding the good projects, doing what you say you'll do, putting together a team of people that are like minded, that round out the weaknesses that you have in your own learning or knowledge,
Hmm.
and going for it. Simply
Yeah.
going.
Talk a little bit more about that concept of raising money. And even in the beginning, like you said, you went to the bank, you didn't necessarily know that they weren't that you were surprised they gave you some money, right? Or they were gonna, but it wasn't enough. So then you went back to the seller. So I think the creativity and the thought process sometimes around for many is that you have to have the money. You have to know everything up front. You're talking about themes such as bringing a team together, leveraging, using other people's capital in order to get what you want. Like, talk a little bit more about that.
For sure. So when I started, other than the first deal that I did, when I started doing larger deals, the second deal was 19 units, the third deal was 36 units,
Mm,
and it kept growing. I went to friends and family. I made a lot of presentations to people about what the cash flow returns would be if they invested with me.
yeah.
And I ensured that they got paid and they did
Mm,
well. And so they continue to come back and they still do today. The
wow.
projects are larger, the investors are larger, or they're putting in more, but it continues to happen. And there
Mm,
really is capital, which everybody gets paralyzed about, is really
yeah.
not the limiting factor in deals. It's the ability to find and underwrite intelligently good deals. And
Mm,
so anybody can learn it. And you have to just believe in yourself, find something that you want to execute on, jump in and execute. We write
mhm,
lots of offers all the time. We don't
mhm.
expect to win every one. we win the ones we win, and then we close the ones that make the most sense. So we have a very high closing ratio. So we do a pretty good job of vetting it. But that's
Mm.
after a long time of experience, more time than I'm willing to admit, of experience. I'm
Yeah.
still surprised, by the way, that that first bank made me that loan, which is probably the reason that that first bank isn't in existence anymore. But what kind of loans are you guys making to a kid that doesn't have income or credit? Uh,
Yeah.
but you'd be surprised. And many people got started that way with
Mhm.
developing a lender relationship that worked for them, maybe a
Mhm.
smaller regional bank or credit union, and going out and putting a deal together. I tell people, if you want to start small, get a duplex,
Mm.
rent out the other half, show that income, get a
Yeah.
loan that's appropriate for that, hold that property, rent your unit, refinance it, go buy another property, and
Mhm.
continue rinse and repeat to do that. And then the other thing that happens is that people get scared because markets change.
Mhm.
Oh my God, the market might be going down. How am I possibly going to make money?
Mhm.
Well, it's all about friction. It's not necessarily about the positive indicators of every market. There's
Mm.
money to be made when the markets go down. In fact, most of mine has been made when the markets went down. We,
Interesting. Mhm.
we bought distressed. So people say, well,
Mhm.
what do we do? The deals are trading slower. Okay, then you go back to the seller and you say, look, I need you to make concessions. I need
Mhm.
you to finance this deal for me for the first 2 years while I put it together and increase the income so I could refinance you,
Yeah.
but at least you'll get cash flow. So there are a lot of ways. It's no different for businesses. When I advise small, medium, large businesses, we have a
Mhm.
practice area in family offices where we advise family offices. It's no different. The fundamentals are the same in business.
Mhm.
Manage the capital, budget the capital, get a return on every labor hour that's happening,
Mm.
and drive the business forward, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to shift slightly here. We'll continue on this, and I want to pick this up. And I also have your the most recent book, Volume 11, in my hand, and we're going to dig into that a bit as well. But I do want to take a moment, and maybe as an aside, and get into the educational component of what you do as well, whether it's speaking, whether it's teaching, because you've had this whole other linear path that you've pursued while doing real estate, while speaking, while doing real estate, I should say, while advising businesses, like all these other things. Like, where does that educational component and that need to give back, where does that come from?
Probably my family,
Mm.
probably the way that I was raised, and a core value of giving back and trying to share blessings that you've received.
Hmm.
So I knew how to teach. I knew how to teach because I would help people with the things that they were
Yeah.
working on from a young age. And
Mm.
I liked it. So in law school, I got involved and I ended up teaching at the law school at Pepperdine at their
Hmm.
Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology Law. And I was an advisory board member. I loved that. I
Mm.
went on to that center. I was an advisory board member when it was first formed. So we kind of helped get it off the ground.
Yeah.
Now it's doing incredibly well. Then I went on to teach at Chaplan University to teach people how to get real estate licenses, broker's licenses, and other core
Mm.
classes. And I love that because you can see the connection. You can see
Mm.
when somebody's learning from what you're saying, and when
Mm.
they've got a true interest, and you can pour into them.
Yeah.
And the accumulation of knowledge is interesting, but if you don't share it, what are you doing? It seems very
Hmm.
narcissistic to me. So I really do love to share. And then I bring people into the team
Mm.
who have that learning passion, commitment, hardworking, and want a family atmosphere, but want to do great things. And
Mm.
people around here recognize that there isn't anything we can't do. So what is it we should do?
Yeah. What keeps you motivated on that side of things? Like when it comes to to rallying the troops, the team, like all of that, like that side of leadership, like what keeps you motivated and going, especially when things, market's going against you, whatever it is, like that, whatever gets you down, like what keeps you motivated?
Well, there's a drive to win for sure.
Hmm.
I'm competitive and I don't quit. I'm tenacious, so I haven't quit anything.
Got that dog in you, Scott. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Eh, and I have a lot of people who depend on me.
Yeah.
And depend on me to lead. They depend on me to support and protect and provide. And I
Mm-hmm.
take that role very, very seriously. As a lawyer, I take it very seriously. As an advisor, as CEO, I'm critically and deeply invested in the success of the people around me. And often I'll be the last person to be paid because
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking care of everybody else. And that's okay. I still feel like that's a good day's work.
Yeah.
And everybody that works with me is part of my family. And if
Mm-hmm.
they're not, they're probably not going to work for me that long because I need it. And now the team that I've born
Yeah.
needs that kind of connection.
Yeah.
That's our DNA.
Staying on that kind of train of thought when we're talking about team, and this has been a theme throughout this entire interview of building a team, whether they're direct reports to you or otherwise. Talk a little bit more about your concept around the team in terms of like partners, like whether it's, real development side of things or any of the other things. Like, how do you look to attract, and how do you kind of like vet who you feel are the right people to work with and for you?
I like to, it's what I call the agnostic dissenter. So when
Mm.
I'm talking to people, maybe I'm talking to professional athletes who need advice, and we're
Mhm.
talking about how to put together a team. Well, everybody on your payroll is getting benefited by the dollars that you make. That's how
Yep.
you've set up your construct. So they've got their own incentives, which may not be in line with your overall life goals. So
Mhm.
who's that person that's smart, that you trust, and is going to tell you exactly what the truth is with no upside at all?
Mm.
Listen to that person. Have somebody like that close to you. What
Mm.
is it that you don't know? What is it that you want to know that you don't know, that you need to know? And
Yeah.
where's that seat being pulled? It's like the book Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Yeah.
You need to put the right people on the right seats in the bus. You really do. And you need to be self aware enough to recognize that I'm not great at that. I
Mm.
need somebody who is, because that's a core element of this machine.
Mhm.
And if we want to expand in that direction, maybe we want to go into the design business, which we've done because we design our own properties. So we've
Mhm.
expanded that beyond our own properties. Well, we need an exceptional designer with great interpersonal skills, which happens to be my partner, Consuela.
Mm.
And that gives birth to that business. And then I put energy behind it. We rally the right
Mhm.
troops to undergird it, and off we go. And it's been that
Yeah.
way throughout my career. That there was a point in time where one of the businesses that I had was to go in with asset-based financial institutions that were
Mhm.
foreclosing at that time on companies that weren't paying their loans. I would
Mm.
go in as the friendly buyer, hired by the bankers, turn the business around, and then have the option to either keep the business by guaranteeing the debt or spring out of the business, roll it up, and sell it. And that
Mm.
was my job. I did that for about 10 years, and it taught me a whole lot about different businesses, different management styles, the
Mhm.
nature of what happens when people get into control. What are the correlation or in trouble? What are the
Mm.
correlations between those activities and getting in trouble? And it helped me
Mhm.
to guide my own businesses thereafter. And I kept a
Mm.
couple of those businesses, built them up, sold them, and that
Mm.
became a further part of my more specific focus into real estate.
Mm.
And now when we take interest in companies, it's usually startup to just when they're making revenue,
Mhm.
and we're advising them. We take a piece, we continue to help them grow with the idea that they're going to sell, much like venture capital.
Mm. Yeah.
But
Let's switch it up a bit here. I want to get into the most recent volume of Mission Matters, and let's get into your content. So, voices and choices, the human variable in the success equation. Lots of different, I know your content, or I know some of your content, I should say. And I know you got lots of different angles you could have taken. Why this message? Why now?
because it really is all about people.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter how smart you are, unless you want to be a sole proprietor. If you want to build an enterprise, you
Hmm.
have to attract wonderful people, and you have to recognize who your constituents really are.
Hmm.
It's one thing to say my constituents or my customers or my clients or my
Yeah.
investors, but they're also your lenders and the building department and every other aspect of what's happening in the ecosystem of your
Mm.
business. That's the tactical, practical, on the ground today. But
Yeah.
the truth of how you build up to that is who's in your life as you're growing, who's in
Mm.
your life as you're learning, who you attract yourself to, or who you attract to you. And often for
Mm.
me, I was more intrigued by people that were really smart, that knew things I didn't, and I want
Mm. Yeah.
and I wanted to bring them close to me. And many of them I brought along with me through those companies and into my business now. But
Mm.
those were advisors, those were friends, family.
Mhm.
And where do you pick up the characteristic traits? Which ones do you want to emulate and imbue? Which
Yeah.
ones do you want to repel and say, well, I can see that doesn't work. Get that out of my life.
Yeah.
So it really is about the voices and then the choices. So,
Mm.
what are they saying to me? Who am I going to listen to? Who do I need
Mhm.
to get away from? And how am I filling in my plate so that I've got all the right pieces to make the machine work?
Mm. Now, obviously, there's a lot in this chapter and what you wrote, but if there were just kind of like one thing that you hope your readers for this take away from it, what would that be?
Don't be afraid of creativity.
Mm.
Don't be afraid of taking chances at all.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it. And don't be afraid of losing. It's not a
Mm.
battle, it's a war. And it
Mm.
goes on forever. You can make it fun, you can make it exciting, but be creative, be bold, be tenacious, have character and
Mm.
integrity, do what you say,
Mhm.
and go after your goal. And don't listen. The more that people tell you that's not doable,
Yeah.
should be a defining moment in how you know it's right.
Yeah, like when you're uncomfortable, if it's uncomfortable, if it's like, okay, then this is growth, right? Like to me,
That's
that's
right.
the way I look at it.
I agree with you 100%. And it should be uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
growth should be a perpetual thing throughout your life. It is for
Mm.
me. So that's back to teaching. I learn as much from my students as I teach, from
Mhm.
mentoring, from having juniors become seniors, become leaders, run a division, run a
Yeah.
company. You know, my partner was at first my executive assistant. It,
Mhm.
anything can happen. There are no limitations except the ones we place on ourselves. It's just true.
Amazing. Well, Scott, first off, it's been great having you back on the show. This is exciting. I'm excited to continue to promote the book with you and your team. I have to ask, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Delray Urban? What's next? What do you got on the agenda?
Well, we're launching funds now. We're going to be
Mhm.
doing more flipping of
Mhm.
homes in Southern California and in Houston, Texas. We're going to
Mhm.
be doing more acquisitions across the country. We're moving into new markets. We're
Yeah.
looking at multiple deals right now. When we're out of state, our projects are typically larger. So
Mm.
we're going to continue to do that. We'll see how things shake out in California with the
Mhm.
regulatory environment and the pressure. California
Mm.
has become a much harder place to do it, but
Mhm.
that also deters competition and makes the good deals great,
Mm.
less competition.
Yeah.
So we're going to be watching the market and see how it resettles and continue to grow. The objective right now is to double the portfolio over the next 5 years.
Mm.
I mean,
That's great.
our goal is to exceed 10,000 units and to continue with the other parts of the business.
Mhm.
And I'm also getting involved in a couple of more of the venture opportunities that are growing that
Mm.
are enjoyable and helping people. That goes back to the teaching and the mentoring and all of that,
Mhm.
plus learning new things. I'm enjoying my deep dive into AI and bringing those tools into our business because it's so helpful. We can
Isn't
go,
it?
oh, it's spectacular. We can
Yeah.
analyze skills, we can, with granularity and
Mm.
all sorts of different inputs. It's really a wonderful, wonderful tool.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep doing what we know how to do, and in some cases, go back to what we know how to do.
Hmm.
Sometimes as we're growing, we go on a departure and all of a sudden we look back and say, we haven't done that many deals this year because we've been so focused on this.
Yeah.
And deals make us more money and we enjoy them and they're long-term wealth creation. So there's a balance between cash flow and wealth creation, and you've got to always
Mm.
keep that balance, especially if you reinvest in your business all the time.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're going. We're going to
Mm.
continue to grow. We'll
Amazing.
continue to grow the law firm. We'll continue to grow the consulting firm. We'll continue to build out these funds. And Delray Urban will continue to be a leader in these spaces for
Hmm.
many decades to come.
Scott, if people are listening or watching this, and if they want to follow up and they want to learn more and connect, how do they do that?
DelrayUrban.com is one way they can do it.
Mhm.
310-315-7226 is the other way they can do it. Call the office. If they want
Yeah.
to speak to me, reach out to me. We'll find time. And
Mhm.
if people really want to know, how do I do this? How do I get
Mm.
in this business? How do I increase my space in this business? How do I use my passive income to get a better return? How do I structure tax advantage
Mm.
deals? Whatever the questions are, we've
Mm.
either documented it when we represented banks,
Mhm.
lent on it as lenders, bought it, litigated it. There isn't a piece of it that we haven't touched. So I'd be happy to share that knowledge with anyone. Been doing it a long time.
Mm. It's awesome. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put the links, the website, all that good stuff in the show notes. So you can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking of links as well, we'll have the links to the most recently released book that Scott's part of course, volume 11 of Mission Matters, Business Leaders Edition. And so definitely pick up a copy of that. And if you're a first time viewer or listener and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Scott, man, thank you so much for coming back on the show. And thank you for being part of volume 11, holding up volume 1 again. I cannot believe that many years have flown by and all that's happened since then, man. I'm just so proud and happy to see your business continuing to grow and thrive. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Adam. And I'm proud of you as well. You've done an incredible job. I love working with you, and we've got a lot more to do. We've got a lot more to do.